Greeks philosophized because they had slaves. The idea that Greek philosophized because they had slaves is a childish historical confusion made by, how to say it, superficial anti-Westerners. Those who philosophized were not wealthy loungers, but people raised in a culture that generated questions. Socrates was not a lord. He was the son of a stonemason, and Heraclitus, despite his aristocratic origin, he refused power. Epictetus was a slave. The Pythagoreans lived in communities with austerity, discipline, and inner work. Or have you never read the play The Persians? Aeschylus did not demonize the Persians. He saw the same human nature in the enemy, and he spoke of hybris and nomos. Nomos basically is law, but in the Greek understanding of things, it's cause and effect. It's what we call today karma. It's not the good guys and the bad guys. Our friend's mistake here is precisely that. The fundamental mistake is projecting modern values and modern values as rights and tolerance and democracy onto societies that operated with an entirely different horizon of meaning. Ancient Persia, Greece, and Rome cannot be compared using 21st century criteria. They cannot even be compared easily with each other. And yes, of course, Persia contributed to science and mathematics, as did Babylon and Egypt and India and China. What we call philosophy today in the West and the atheism of the West is not a renaissance of philosophy. It is a fatigue of faith. It denies the God of power, but has not regained the logos of being. That's why it leads to nihilism. It created a human being without dogma, but also without nous, disconnected from everything. Modern man is constantly exposed to a barrage of information, of ideologies and standards that dictate what to think, what to desire through advertising, and how to feel through the media and social media and the educational system itself. Man not only accepts these mandates, but internalizes and defends them, as he identifies his security and identity with his submission to the whole system. The inability of modern human beings to question the dominant ideological narratives while constantly being bombarded by desires and emotion is spiritual and psychic slavery. And this is the heaviest form of slavery. The true Persian conquest ultimately did happen over the centuries. But it wasn't only military, it was spiritual. It happened on the level of consciousness. Greece resisted the Persians militarily, but the West later, including Greece, was spiritually subjugated to the exact same pattern. And this came in a stealth mode, through the window, so to speak. Which pattern was that? The pattern of submission, dogma, power, and ruling by the will of God. And this is what essentially plunged us into the Middle Ages. So, democracy was transformed into a managerial machine of votes that is only democratic in name, while Greek democracy was a way of life. It was not a political system. It was the participation in the truth of the common nous, which is the word for mind, but it's not mind even, it means higher consciousness. So the question was not what political system we have, but who rules? Does the one who should rule, or the one who should not rule? Look around you, how they bombard us with desire and emotions. We are in a permanent stimulation of desire and emotion with our consciousness filled with noise, with various ideologies and beliefs, so that we are, in the end, all divided and thrown into vagueness. So we do not have citizens in the city-state understanding of citizens. What we have are consumers of identities, and consumers of identities follow every carrot that is presented to them according to their tastes and according to the false identity they have built around their persona. Such people in the ancient cities, in the city-states, would not even have citizenship. Because without self-mastery, there's no freedom. Today, without self-mastery, there is the rights, which is the right to consume the identity of what you think you are, living inside an illusion that the system itself has cultivated for you to swim in. Do you think you are not a slave? Do you not have bonds? Try to stop paying your taxes, to cease obeying the system. You'll see how free you are. You live in a much more sophisticated, much more controlled, a deep form of slavery, but you don't even realize it. And then there is this other form of slavery, which is that of mental bonds. When was the last time you examined all of your beliefs? Which of the things you think, feel, want, and thus do are truly your own, and which are implants or reactions? Modern man lives in the fiercest slavery, but he simply does not see it because he has become a voluntary slave. It's called ethελόβουλος in Greek. With Christianity, this model of obedience, basically, was essentially introduced to the West. And man is not called to know himself, which is the famous Delphic maxim, know thyself, γνώθεις αυτόν, but instead to submit to a faith that is given to him from somewhere above. Who is above exactly? Isn't this a human creation? Yeah. Maybe there is a God above, but that's a different story. It meant cultivation of the soul. It did not mean simple education. To grow up and remain a child, to question and to wonder, not to live psychologically burdened and oppressed and worse off than when you come into this world. Because many people leave this world like that in our times. This is what Paideia means. Paideia is play. Paideia, and then school. School means leisure, scholi. It is power, ownership, and not only state, material or physical power, but above all, spiritual power. It's the inner ownership. The ownership over the self. So the power to hold yourself. The question I posed a little earlier, which of the things you think, feel, want, and thus do are truly your own, and which are implants or reactions? A free citizen had to prove this at the level of consciousness, of perception and virtue. Wisdom, capacity for self-reasoning and self-mastering. And if you take this question as the Ariadne's thread to escape the labyrinth, unraveling it, every modern ideology collapses. Socialism, communism, democracy, capitalism. That's why you never learn true history. Who looks at who is the one ruling behind all of this? No one does that. Everyone gets lost in their ideologies and beliefs. And all this is noise. After so many thousands of years of human evolution, we don't get this simple rule. My liberty stops when your liberty begins. And this, of course, can get very complicated if you start thinking about it. But this is the main principle. Look around you, how they bombard us with desire and emotions. We are in a permanent stimulation of desire and emotion with our consciousness filled with noise, with various ideologies and beliefs, so that we are, in the end, all divided and thrown into vagueness.